Hi everyone. So here are 3 financial tips from me before you buy a home. So everyone has a different path to home ownership, and it's not a one-size-fits-all process. But in general, there are 3 things that I highly recommend you do before you purchase your first home. And here they are. Number 1 is job stability. There are several reasons why this is so important, but this is probably the most common reason a potential home buyer can't qualify. So before you decide to buy a home, you need to establish a career, a full-time job. I'm not saying it has to be your forever career, but it does have to be stable and you need to stick with it. So if you are someone who switches jobs and careers often, you're going to have a tough time qualifying for a home purchase. Number 2 is to save up money for a down payment and closing costs. This is one of the more confusing parts of the process because the amount you actually need to set aside is dependent on several factors. And quite frankly, there's no way to really know the exact amount until you actually go under contract. So I understand that leaves a little bit of ambiguity, and that's why it's very important that you speak with a mortgage lender, even if it's 2, 3, or 5 years before you're going to be ready to buy a home. We can walk you through the differences between down payment and closing costs and what an estimate of the two might look like. And a side note to this, and this isn't a necessity, but this is just a recommendation from me. But not only do you need to save up for closing costs and a down payment, but I also highly recommend setting up a savings account for your home ownership. And what do I mean by this? Well, once you own a home, you are actually responsible for the maintenance and the repairs if the home needs it. And these expenses can get expensive, which can catch you off guard if you aren't prepared. So my advice is to make sure you have at least 3 mortgage payments set aside, and they can be estimates, they don't have to be exact, in addition to your cash to close. And finally, number 3, you need to really decide what monthly mortgage payment you are comfortable with. You have to take into account what your life situation might be in 2 years or 5 years, or however long you plan on owning the home for. Too many times I talk to home buyers and they are so consumed with how much home they can get approved for, but what they really should be concerned about is how much home that they can actually afford based on their comfort level. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but if you get yourself in a situation where you can't afford your mortgage anymore, the consequences are pretty tough if you want to own a home again in the future. And again, that's why it's really important that you do talk to a mortgage lender that is not only knowledgeable, but also has your best interests in mind, somebody like me.